Make a motion to call a meeting to order.
I would second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So welcome back, everyone, to the, now we're getting ready. I always have to reset for the FY16 budget year. Yeah, so we're going again. Welcome, Jennifer, to your first meeting. And this meeting is pretty much an organizational meeting, so we'll just review the guidelines and kind of go over some of those things, make sure everything's cleaned up. And then I thought we could, and then we'll have, as the guidelines suggest, elections for chair and vice chair, and then we can talk about scheduling, our goals for the year, etc. And we'll try to move things along. Okay, so if we could take a quick look at the Finance Committee policies and procedures, which should be in your packet. I thought it'd be good just to take a quick look through and review the policies, and then highlight some of them, especially for Jennifer as a new member. So I think our mission is pretty clear in the preamble. And then in the general policies, I think the things that are important to note are really number 5, that an individual opinion expressed by the member of the committee can be expressed at any forum. And you can identify yourself as a member of the committee, but you should always couch it as your opinion and not the committee's opinion. And then at town meeting, when we've taken a vote and issued a recommendation, we can speak as the committee when we're expressing the will of the majority, and then contrary opinions can be expressed as well. So I think that's an important distinction if you're ever talking to the press or in another public forum. Number 2, I think, is pretty straightforward. And, basically how you become a member and when you can see membership. Records and minutes, of course, we've been well served for many years with Patty Sifferlin, and this year we have a new clerk, so we're very happy about that with Angela, and we usually go through and do the minutes as first or second minutes from the previous meeting, first or second item every year. Next, rules of procedure in voting. So I think, one of the things we want to kind of focus, one of the things that's been an issue from time to time is, we've been a 9-member committee for the past few years. We haven't had any vacancies, which is great. We need 5 to get a quorum. And so sometimes as the meetings pick up, it does become difficult to get a quorum. So I think one of my main goals, just from an operational standpoint this year, is to make sure that we have really good contact information and we stay in touch so that we make sure that we always have a quorum. I think it happened once, maybe last year, where we lacked a quorum. And, we understand we can certainly reschedule meetings and try to work things out. I just worry when we ask, when we have town employees or other boards coming in front of us, that we disrupt people's evenings, and we want to be courteous and be good hosts. So that's one of the things we'll work with Angela to do, is to get a good contact list, and we can, I think last year we set out a procedure and said, hey, if it looks like we're going to be at 6, going into the week of a meeting, we should probably, count noses the day before, and then make sure that we get on the phone and make sure that we have our quorum. because it does get busy, and, we realize it's an all-volunteer board, and we certainly realize that not everyone can make every meeting. And so it's just important to make sure that we, have a quorum whenever we have a meeting. Okay. And then one of our more interesting procedures, I think, and I think it's served us pretty well, is in general expressed in Rule F, which is that normally we don't hear a proposal and vote on a proposal in the same meeting. Usually we hear and discuss a proposal in one meeting, and then the next we vote on it. We can take a majority vote to break that rule if time doesn't permit us to have two meetings, or if we just decide that that's what we want to do. But I've found it an interesting rule when I joined, and I actually have found it quite useful because it does give you some time to think about things and allows some consideration. And G says, that we shouldn't vote without, and not issue a recommendation without requested and relevant information provided. So, I think we've been working on that over the past few years, and I think we've had very good responses from our town officials and town employees when we've asked for information, and we've had it in a timely fashion to make good decisions. And then last year, we added a section on executive session when we decided to televise the meetings. It would be a very rare occurrence for us to go into executive session because we don't have any personnel issues to discuss. We don't have any privacy reasons. The probably sole exemption may be if the town were involved in like a large land, trying to negotiate a land purchase with a private citizen, and we were getting an update from somebody in town about that, where we might need to go in executive session to preserve, our negotiating edge. And then we would release the minutes of that executive session afterwards. So we'd have to vote to go into executive session. We'd have to announce before what we were going in to discuss. And then after any deal was completed or not completed, we would release those minutes. So the open meeting law is very important. And that's pretty much it. And then we follow the, kind of a modified Robert's Rules of Order. Any questions on the policies and procedures? Okay. Okay. If we don't have any questions, we could move on to the next item on the agenda.
One thing, maybe, just as a reminder, I didn't remember mentioning it last year about the ethics exam. Do we need to get back on that again this year? Everybody?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, there's an online, is there an online?
Yeah, it's
Right.
online
Training
test.
course,
Right.
yeah. I
I
never
don't
got
know
a
how
link
many
to
years
that, or,
I got it 2 years ago, but not last year.
Yeah, same with me,
Yeah.
so I'm just questioning.
Okay.
Yeah. I
So why don't we, I'll,
We're going to send, we're sending out a link over.
oh, okay.
Great, okay. Yeah, because I like kind of forgot the link.
Yeah.
And I was thinking that, I didn't do it last year, but I did it the year before, and
Me too.
yeah, maybe a good thing to get out of the way early.
Right.
You didn't take an exam either. Okay, we definitely have to.
Yeah.
That's right, then, okay.
Yeah.
Right. There's a requirement, and you could discharge your.
I remember Joyce
exam
coming in
requirement online.
and telling everybody a couple of years ago, you got to take the exam, and then
Right.
I don't remember it last year.
I
So
don't either.
I didn't know if it was an annual thing or biannual or what.
Yeah, sure.
new members, we need it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
regardless, so, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And I know I didn't get the link last year.
Okay.
Okay. I don't think Joyce came in and
No.
went after us with a gavel or something.
Yeah. Right. All right, well, we'll fix that right away.
Is it on our policies and procedures?
No, I think it's a statewide requirement for all
committees.
officials. Committees.
Up to study. Okay. Well, that said, are we ready to move to the next?
Chair and Vice Chair.
Are we ready to do the next item on the agenda?
Do we have a motion?
Okay. I would like to make a motion to nominate, or I would like to nominate Bill Callahan as chair.
A second motion?
All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Okay. So carried. So carried.
Carrie? I would like to make another nomination.
It's a nominating committee.
I'm the nominating. We met on the street out, no.
None of that. I didn't take my ethics training, and I know that's wrong.
Yeah, it wasn't posted at Dunkin' Donuts.
I would like to nominate Don as vice chair again.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, so
So two things.
Go home
check
now.
that off. The next item of business is very important, and I received an email this morning from the town accountant, Lynn Savage, to discuss the Revenue and Fixed Cost Committee. And for the sake of the viewing public and Jennifer, the Revenue and Fixed Cost Committee is a group, kind of a subcommittee, made up of members from the school committee, town manager's office, town accountant, and finance committee, and a representative from the Board of Selectmen, who come together to work with the town assessor to develop our best projection for next year's revenue and fixed cost. What do we think the revenues will be, and what do we know the fixed costs will be? For example, most of our salaries are within a percentage or two or three, kind of mapped out by collective bargaining agreements. Our debt service and so forth are pretty well established, and so what they do is try to work to figure out what kind of budget estimates we're going to use as a group to collectively work through the budget. And so it meets maybe, and I have not yet served on it, so I will actually let those on the committee who have served on it discuss a little bit more what it is, and then we can establish a few volunteers. I think we've had traditionally 2. I don't think there's any cap, but I think 2 or 3 is probably a good number to serve in that committee and work with the other individuals in town to develop the best possible estimate for the next year's budget.
I, having
Okay.
served on that committee for 2 years, I think, would say that it's a great, our committee, FinCom, is concerned with costs, expenses, programs. This particular committee, Revenue and Fixed Costs, gives you the other side. Where is the money coming from? How can we, what sections, how much are coming from the state funds? How much are coming from taxes? How much are coming from our meals tax, the local sources? All of the sources of revenue then are pulled together and quantified and projected by Lynn, and then there are certain bases for those projections. Sometimes it's hard to project, and it's just best to be very conservative about it, and I tend to like to do that. I think everybody does, really, because you can't count the birds in the bush. It's the ones in the hand that you do. So I think it's a wonderful experience for a new member to serve on that committee. And since I've served twice, I would like to see a new member or someone who hasn't served on that committee to have that opportunity to see how that side of our equation works.
My 2 cents worth, I served on it last year. I thought likely that as much as that it really did give you the other side, the big picture of what you have to work within. Lynn and team do an excellent job in providing you with all the information, historical records, basis for estimates, and you can really have a say in the matter and say, where did this come from? So if you don't know where your money's coming from, it's an excellent opportunity to ask those questions. Well, how do you know that? Where do you know that? You see trends. The fixed cost part, get me wrong, is insurance, pension, things that they may or may, debt service for sure. So there's a lot of things that are fixed costs that you really have no control over. That's going to eat away some of that revenue that's coming in. So the rest of it's left over, for spending, pretty much.
So what's the involvement? So how many times?
It's not bad. It's, I think about 3 meetings. I think we had 3. I don't know, there could be a 4th, but it's really 3. And Len prepares us for each stage, each set. We're fully, so 3 meetings and we're done. There's a report, maybe 4th. And they are during the daytime, however. They tend to be in the morning because we have to have the school. And then we have to have folks on our own payroll who have to come. So they're usually around 9, 8:30 maybe. We could do 8 o'clocks, I think, even. I think we've done. Yeah.
How long?
How long are the meetings?
Not long. We plow through that stuff pretty fast. I would say, I don't think we did more than an hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
What time of year?
Right now.
So that's right now.
It starts right now.
Requirement
Yeah.
for that committee to actually report to the selectmen, I believe.
November?
Yep.
There's a
Okay.
date
So there's a
in
number of
November when
days.
that happens, yeah.
I'm sorry, so it ends in November?
No, it'll start in October, but there's a date requirement for that subcommittee to report to the selectmen about what the forecasts and projections are going to be, so that the selectmen can actually give guidance to the town manager of what budget to have.
When's that report deadline?
Sometime in November.
Okay, so it's pretty much a weekly meeting.
Yeah, and 4 meetings.
I would love to do it this year. I don't know if I can nominate myself, but if someone wants to nominate me, I would like to learn that side of the equation. I don't know, do we?
I think we.
Yeah, I mean, I would volunteer.
Yeah.
No good deed goes unpunished. I would definitely volunteer to do that. I'd be interested in learning that side of it. Absolutely, and the days work for me. Daytime is good for me, actually.
Yeah, I haven't done it yet, so.
Okay.
All right, great. Are we limited
Report
to,
back to us.
3 or 4, I think. 2 or 3.
we could have a 3rd member, can't we?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right.
I would
Anyone
think
else?
so.
I can't possibly take off mornings.
Yeah, mornings is really I thought it was also, I would have done it if we had like 5 or 6 p.m. meetings, but mornings is really it's not going to work for
Yeah.
me.
But we'll do our best to. They'll do their best to get the information for you, and then you can pepper them with the questions during meetings. Right, is that good?
Okay, so I'll shoot an email to Lynn in the morning with your names and contact, and we'll go from there. That's great. Thank you. Okay. Scheduling. So last year we met on Wednesday evenings. Once the budget cycle, we started our meeting on Tuesdays, and once the budget season got going, we met on Wednesdays. I think from about December on. And the other wrinkle this year is that with the renovations at Town Hall, Andrew sent an email around saying meeting space is going to be at a premium, so consider your options and try to get something straightened out early.
What about the new
So
school
that's
building?
So
Yeah.
what I did was I emailed back and I said to just so we didn't show up after the punch bowl was gone. I sent an email to the town manager's assistant, Laurie Burzloff, and I said, Laurie, could we take every other Wednesday evening in the new school administration building, because I understand that it's a good meeting room and also that it's well set up for AV. And I thought that it seemed like last year we ended up moving around a little bit, and this year it might be better just to stick with one location and one night and kind of work our way there. And obviously, if if things come up, like storms, et cetera, and we have to reschedule, we'll do the best we can, given the resources. But if Wednesdays work,
Let me just ask you, I know, for me, actually,
It's not a good night, is another night. I could do Tuesdays, Thursdays, it's just I have another commitment on Wednesdays. That last year I had like one marathon meeting from like 4:30 to 6.
right.
And then our meeting on Wednesdays. So if there's any way we could change, that would
Right.
be nice. I don't know how everybody else's schedule is.
I'm open to something Mondays.
I think as
I'm
long
on
as we
another
can
committee,
stick to
so-
a day,
Right.
The same day.
then
same day.
we can schedule it around, but going back and forth that's my
Right.
problem, no?
Right, no, I would say the same
Yeah,
thing.
I'm open for
Okay.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah.
I'd like to stay away from Friday.
Fridays and Mondays bad.
Fridays and Mondays.
Right.
So maybe you could check availability on Tuesday and
Okay.
Thursdays in these different sites where we could meet.
Sure.
And then we would
Thank
do it
you.
every other week, yes. I mean,
Right.
we'd just get it on the schedule for every other week.
Right, right.
And Al
In
used to
season.
just sort of like, just book more meetings. He did, in the beginning of the season, it seemed as if there were more meeting dates that we actually were booked.
Right.
Than we
Actually met.
used, that we actually met. Some part of that is,
There wasn't enough to cover us and stuff.
yeah, but overdoing that then makes it hard on other boards, but there must be
Right.
some happy medium
Right. I mean,
for that.
think,
Yeah.
normally we've met, I think last fall we met maybe every other week through the fall. We had the financial reserve policies, and we looked at the bylaws, and we did, so I think there's some important stuff to do in the fall, but obviously it's not nearly as intense as it gets once we get the budgets.
Last year too, in that we had so many new members.
Right.
And so there was quite a learning curve.
Who are we missing tonight?
Not me.
So who are we missing tonight? If you-
Just Chris.
Just Chris.
Snowball,
Right,
Yeah.
is traveling on business, for business. Okay, so I'll check on Tuesdays and then just solicit opinions over email, and we can,
Is it tentative time, like 6:45 or?
yes, and I'm not wedded to, actually later is better for me, but I'll accede to the will of the majority.
I think it was good, 6:45.
Yeah, that's
Sort of unlocked in us.
Okay.
That's fine. And then
Works.
because if we do it later and we happen to go over, then
Right.
we just get really
Right.
tired. So if we
Okay.
just keep our meetings shorter, it would be good.
Well, hopefully we don't have any huge challenges.
I know, I think it was pretty good with our meetings, I think I can only recall one or two at the late meetings where we got late, but other than that, it's like an hour and a half, so, the most.
Don't set the bar so good.
No,
You're
that's,
supposed to like case me on it. Don't worry about it.
to me, puts us in,
So in terms of goals for FY16 budget year, I think, as we did, I think last year, we spent a lot of time talking about what kind of presentations and setting up the guidelines for presentations. That was, a useful document, and we got a lot of good feedback from members in the town, so I think we can look at that again. I'll put it on the list for the next meeting to review, and we can take a look at it.
For those that don't have a copy, could you send a copy?
I'll send a copy around. Yeah. And it was basically what we did was, it was a fair criticism or constructive criticism. Fair isn't even the right word. It was a constructive criticism from the town board saying that, we'd like to know what you expect from us when we're coming in front of you for review, so that they could prepare properly. And so we kind of set out a list. I think it was basically a one-page document of 10 or 11 points that we're looking for. How do you reconcile back to your last year's budget? Is there any additional headcount? What would you do if you had more money? What would you do if you had a little less money?
What do you need?
What do you need? Is there anything you're putting off? in terms of, capital or headcount, or labor-related. And so it was, it was pretty useful, I think.
It was useful, but it might be nice if every time that we met, we, with a department, if we had the document in front of us so that we actually followed it.
Right.
I think there were some times when we got rushed towards the end that we didn't really do it, and I think it might have thrown some people off, or we might have not gotten the information all that we wanted. That's all.
I think this year would be good to maybe get periodic updates during the cycle about where we are with special ed.
Yes, yes.
You know, as how's that's tracking, and you know, just so we get an idea that if we don't get hit at the end again, maybe there's no way not to do that, but.
Yeah, didn't we talk about sending somebody to the school committee meetings?
Well,
Or what was our, yeah, I'm trying to remember what the upshot of that was, yeah.
Jim Mealy is supposed to send us a kind of his budget reconciliation month by month. So realistically, I should reach out because they've had, their fiscal year started July 1. So they've had some. I'm sure that those aren't high spending months, and now I think I would say the end of September would be the month where they should know, because everybody's registered and on board.
Yeah.
So that's when they should
Pretty
know.
much.
I did have a meeting with Jennifer Price, Dr. Jennifer Price, with the new school superintendent, and she indicated that she wants to make sure we build a strong relationship, and we're getting a lot of information, and so I think we'll keep that up. But I think it's important too to be, either attending or watching, frankly, the school committee meetings, because they are televised and you can watch them after the fact. So.
Plus also, you can get yourself on the automatic email listing for all their meetings and all the information from them by just signing up with the town. So you don't have to put too much thought into it.
What is the time requirement for that?
Well, that's what I'm saying. They meet every week on Thursdays, and it is a long meeting.
It's very long.
Very long meeting. Yeah.
That's the biggest part of the budget.
Just a
That
thought.
is the biggest part of the budget.
Yeah.
Right.
I have it might be shorter. Going forward.
Oh. Want to do it?
A lot.
Just for consideration, for maybe the next meeting, and thinking about it, this is that we ought to tag team attending
Right.
at these meetings, because they are long, and you feel guilty when you don't show up because you feel like, as I did, obligated to the finance committee, saying, oh, I missed that one, And if we tag team, I think, so just some thought to it. They're interesting.
You
Yeah, or
know
at
the
least you-
agenda in advance, you know whether it's worth it or not. And that I would pick and choose, but not all were, for, I think, what this group does.
So we play it by ear then? See how the reports go?
Right. I think we should.
Anything with financial impact.
And if they are, if we feel that we need to do the tag team, then we will do the tag team, something like that?
Right.
Or do we want to set a tag team now?
Well, I think.
I get the agenda.
Right.
I'll put a business in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what the protocol is, but I could
I mean,
say.
we could
this
communicate
item-
over email and say, like, it seems like they're talking about issue X
Use email?
at we can use email because we're not deliberating. So we can exchange information over email, we just can't deliberate.
Right.
So we could say there's an item of interest. We just can't say that, the spending proposal
And then
is.
you might know what it is and decide.
Right, and then we could,
At least
maybe
for the next
volunteer.
month or two, I will read every agenda
Okay.
and bring it to your.
Great.
Great, give us a heads up and figure out what to do.
Again, to the power of 2/3 of the budget the school has, is there a thought that perhaps we have Jim Mealy here a couple times ahead of, I just hate, here's our budget.
Right.
It's not that thin,
Right.
And maybe we invite Jim in to just sort of give us construct of what he plans on doing. I know he does the same thing for the school committee. Here's the plan,
Right.
but I'd like to have, maybe he have him give it to us as well.
Sure, okay, I can
Yeah.
definitely reach out and, I think we could get that from Jennifer and/or Jim. Dr. Price. Okay.
Did we ever, kind of along those same lines, at the end of the year, we got hit with that sort of last minute signing off on the special education funds that then got published in the paper as though we had activated
Right.
the special education reserve fund, which for the record, we did not do. You know, did that ever get clarified, and should we put it on the record, as a matter of public record, that?
You just did.
I just did, that, you know, we did not activate the special education
That's perfect.
fund reserve fund that we
Right.
approved. We did not approve it and then subsequently immediately invoke it. We did not do that. That was
Right.
misrepresented in the press.
Right.
I'd like to go on the record as saying that.
Yes, and I think that the consensus after the meeting and after the article was that
Just wasn't worth fighting.
that it was too much inside baseball to try to correct the story. So we did not,
So there you go.
but I think it stands corrected.
You know, another thing is that I know we've talked
I know
about
you
it.
are.
It's not our job to
Monitor how, you know, how the budget's going during this current year and expenditures that are being made. But if we're kind of keeping track of the school committee and how that's going and hearing reports, you know, if we ever talk to Lynn about having her maybe, if anything comes up, she could let us know. You know, I mean, we only hear about snow and, you know, some things over at the school. But I just wonder if we could kind of ask her to let us know more about how expenditures are going this year.
Right. She's been. I mean, because really, we start into the budget.
Or maybe there never is anything. We're
Right.
just pretty much right on budget.
Yeah. I think she's pretty good with, you know, the other big variable is state aid, and grants and so forth. And I think, you know, I think we could certainly ask for something more formal, but I do think we get a lot from her when we start seeing her more often when the budget cycle between her and Andrew is usually one or the other there, and so we do get updates, I think, on a lot of times like state grants or you know, highway money and things like that are coming through. But I think that
Revenue and Fixed Cost Committee gets a voluminous amount of information, all good and solid, that committee might share with the rest of us. And so that as we go through the year, we can check the projections
that would be
against
good.
the realities. But Lynn is pretty tight.
Yeah.
She's
Lynn's come in
pretty
Well,
quiet.
that's the thing, too. that
Gone over
there
where we are
isn't
today.
anything unusual.
on local receipts and tax
Right.
revenues.
Right.
anything else on the goals? I would say one of my other goals for FY16 is to get a little bit more citizen input at the beginning of the budget process. We do have our official public hearing. There's usually after the budget cycle is almost completely done. The budget's prepared and it's been extensively reviewed, and we have a public comment night. And in some cases, we have not had any members of the public show up to ask questions. Marta Soloff promised us she would come this year, so we know we'll start at 1. But one of the things that I thought would be a good way to, maybe get some people involved is to invite some people in. So I extended an invitation to Ted Tripp, the president of the North Andover Taxpayers Association, to come in sometime in October and kind of give his view on the state of the budget. And so I'm going to extend him an invitation for one of our meetings in October and November to come in and give some opinions. And I think I'll and if anybody else has any interested citizens who would like to show up at the beginning and say, this is what we'd like to see in the budget and why, I think that would be useful, because I think it would be good to, I don't want to say it's understandable that people don't show up to the public hearing, but I think it's, somewhat understandable in that the budget is prepared and then it's presented. And a lot of people, I think if people felt like they could shape or do more about it, they would. They know they can go to town meeting and express their opinions.
On the other hand, I think, as I've always said, good government is boring.
Right.
Because it's running well, is just boring. And so maybe that's the reason that we haven't seen a whole lot. I'm totally for even having more inviting public participation on particular topics or things of that sort. We don't have to restrict ourselves to the public hearing.
We need more ESCO projects.
Yes, we need more ESCO projects, exactly. That's what does
Let's
it.
stir them up,
Well, there might be a few things like that.
Yeah, it might come up, yeah.
Right.
No, I think it's a great idea to invite people and do it now, kind of at the beginning,
Yeah.
because I think people may have ideas, like cost-saving ideas or revenue ideas, and so let's give people a chance to come in and before everything's kind of decided.
Right.
Kind of back on the ESCO, I know maybe the Sustainability Committee would like to, ask the town to do more on promoting recycling so that the cost of refuse would go down, for example.
What is the relationship with the Merrimack Valley Business Development Group in the town?
I really don't know, to be, perfectly honest. We've certainly had our economic development people in to talk about different efforts, mostly as it relates to the town budget and how we're trying to position, say the big things we've been talking about are how do we position the town for growth? For example, the 125 has kind of been targeted as the area for growth. There was a study that the town commissioned and was performed by graduate students at UMass a few years ago that we spent, some time discussing, where they're looking at, how do we develop kind of the underutilized resources in the town, like,
I recall Andrew saying, wasn't there somebody that was coming in that was specifically going to work on economic development?
Yes.
Yeah, there's somebody,
Andrew question.
yeah.
Andrew does work with that.
Yeah, there was somebody coming in, I thought that they had
Eric,
hired.
So next
Yeah.
time Andrew
Fiore?
is here.
Yeah, that,
Corey, what? Kafori.
Yes.
Eric Kafori is the new business
work
development.
specifically, that was going to be one of his major goals, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe.
And I thought that the Merrimack Valley Business Authority, did you say? Or
It's like a business
Project Authority,
development,
yeah. I think that he was going to be the liaison or something. I'm pretty sure, I recall Andrew saying something about that at a meeting.
Work closely.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. But the Osgood corridor plan that was done by UMass is up on Dropbox. It's a very interesting read.
Yeah, it's really
It's a very interesting, the survey they did of that whole area and some of the ideas they have were extremely interesting. It's up on our Dropbox site.
Yeah.
But, it hasn't been implemented yet.
Well, that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, it has
we
not
talk
been
about
implemented.
Right.
We're worried about costs, but when we talk about revenue, that's the side. So how do we stay in touch with that beyond those of you that volunteer for the revenue committee, right?
I think there was a large initial cost to get the revenue.
Right.
Yes.
So when it
A
comes
number of
to
large things have to
Right.
happen.
Some large
So a
things.
lot of it has to do with sewer improvements on the Route 125 corridor and connecting that to the town.
To Greater
We hear
Lawrence.
that
Through the capital, so they would propose,
come in and talk.
Andrew would come in and say, we would like to spend,
Yeah. It's come up.
$250,000 to design the sewer improvements to bring more development to the town.
Yes.
That's kind of how we get educated about that.
Right, and then that will be kind of the kickoff to, we think we have this opportunity to, development would help the town, and this is the opportunity we have.
They need a big marquee project, too.
Yeah.
Right,
Like a gigantic super Walmart or something to go in there.
right.
Yeah.
There's a big building there already.
Oh, I know, yeah.
Well, then we get into the discussion, build it and they will come.
Yeah, that's,
So, I mean, that's the kind of the thing that we.
Talking about a train stop
When this
there as well.
125 comes up
Yeah.
again, so.
that would be probably
But
one
he'll
of the
come up,
stimulus.
and then we'll discuss it. Yes, he comes, right.
It's been around a few times. It's
I
been
find
discussed.
myself counting curb cuts when I drive down 125 now, because there's so much in the analysis about curb cuts and how we need to do like little access roads there and make that whole area more friendly. It's great. I mean, some of the ideas in there are wonderful, but it really is a matter of getting that sewer and
It's kind of
everything else we need sort of
That area
behind it.
Between exits, and the traffic count may not be what some people
Yeah.
would want for
Right.
commercial. So some challenges, I guess, and we keep talking about it. And the big one was the sewer and how we could connect into Greater Lawrence Sanitary District without having to go up the hill and pump it backwards. Yeah, so,
And that whole issue of the development of 1600 Osgood is so, just
Yeah.
try to fill it up or to use that whole property is so difficult. You never heard anything more about that digester, did you?
No, there's actually a couple of things going on right now.
Are they kind of moving forward on that?
No, that I don't know.
Okay.
But I know there's a, solar power plant.
yeah.
It's on off, and there's different opinions in the town whether that should happen or not.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, we know the owners. They're certainly interested in developing something.
There's a lot of land around there for
Oh, yeah.
opportunities
Oh, yeah.
to
Yeah.
do stuff. How's the building occupancy now, Tom?
No, it's you go by, the parking lot is full.
Right.
And when we started 5 years ago, it was not full, but now so I would say the office space, I don't know the numbers, but they developed the front of the building and the sides of the buildings. And I would say they are at 70-80% of the office. But now when you go into the middle,
Well, that was a
that the
manufacturing
former
floor.
manufacturing, there is not much, developed.
I used to call on there when AT&T and then Lucid. It was incredible. The manufacturing floor was.
Okay. So if there's some good ideas there that we'll reach out on the school committee in terms of goals for next year. We'll try to get some people in early on, talk about different things, and we'll keep the questions kind of front and center with everybody as we review. That's good. I will actually, the cleargov.com, this was actually a website that Susan sent to me. I ended up talking to the developer of the website. It's a very kind of interesting concept where he's like a big data guy, and what he has done is he's taken a lot of publicly available data on different towns and put it in very easy to see format, and also that kind of ranks comparable towns and so forth. And there's a lot of different filters and so forth. And so I struck up a conversation with him over email, and then he gave me a demo, and he has like an advanced version for towns where we could pay to be kind of to have better information than what he has. For example, in our particular case, he had revenues 10 million higher than costs. So I said, there's something wrong there. We don't have $10 million lying around anywhere. And he said, well, I'm going off what I can get. And but he would work with the town, and he gave me a proposal for approximately $1,500. So I'm forwarding it on to Andrew, and I'm going to see what Andrew thinks about it and see. I don't know. We have a very small budget that would not accommodate that. But it is kind of an interesting idea because it does give you a lot of insight into the town. And he was saying that you could even link, like the town website to ClearGov, and it just is very, very understandable. A lot of charts and graphs, and what I liked about it was really what I liked about it was the comparison aspect, where you could click on and you could see, like, for education, North Andover spends X per pupil, and more than 44% or less than, they kind of give you an idea of where they were, where the town is.
Yes, it was part of that discussion always comes up in
Right.
the context of the school budget. if not other things. And the information that we have is just, it's apples and oranges, and we just really can't get them compared. So this, mine's data. Liz, you were
So what's the
puzzling.
$1,500 get us? Does it get him to correct the problems that he has with our data, that we have $10 million, or,
Right.
that we have all this
So,
extra money? Or does it get
it
us
does.
access to other towns' data? And on that same point, if our data's not right, how do we know the other towns' data is correct?
So it would have us as kind of like an early adopter to kind of work. So we would
beta it,
we would
essentially.
we would help beta test the site and kind of get some good data, and and also what he's selling is really transparency, that the citizens of the town could click through the budget in a very easy, understandable way. And I mean, it certainly is easier to understand than a chart of accounts or an Excel sheet with lots of numbers on it. It's very visual and quite
And he's pulling all that from public records,
Right.
basically.
right.
So, well, the Department of Revenue has certain information
Right.
set that it collects.
Exactly.
There are other things that it doesn't collect
Right.
that would probably be useful to bring into the mix here.
Right.
So he's probably mining that and other things. Huh. Well,
So
Just focus on messages, it's all.
yes, yeah. He's an interesting story. He's been doing sort of data projects and different things, and in software for a while. And he, long story short, like somebody stole his big idea, and he sued them, and he won. But by the time he got the settlement, he had basically missed his business opportunity. So he got into this because he thought his taxes were too high, and in Hopkinton, and he started doing that.
I work for the public sector, and so things just come across my desk. It just came into my inbox,
Yeah.
and I did the same thing. I checked that out, and it was really interesting data, very easy to look at, very easy to compare to other towns, very understandable, and I just thought, wow, we should know about this. We should explore it further, and so I'm so glad that you did. Because that would be a perfect use if our data was right.
Right.
To have, people in town click on it and be able to understand our budget and our revenues much better. So, for $1,500, I mean, I don't know, maybe
Right.
we could find that somewhere.
Right. Although we probably have to issue a request for proposal and put it out.
Go out to bid. If it's under a certain amount, I don't think so. Yeah. How much is it?
1,500.
And what's his model for making revenue? Charging the towns or charging people for access?
towns.
The towns, okay.
So the 1,500 is a one user?
I think it's just for the site. I think the site would be publicly available. No, I think it's.
So the site is just up there publicly available for anybody that wants to use it, but the towns pay some sort of fee to have their data
Right. Corrected.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting business.
accurate.
Right.
Yeah. And it strikes me as a strange model.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
If you don't pay the money, you get bad data. That's right. And you look terrible compared to every other city in town.
He's .com, I'm wondering how he's going to make money.
Yeah.
That, because that's what it's going to all be about. He's
Right.
going to want to make money.
Right.
Is he selling ads on the site? That could be another thing. He could,
That's all.
there are lots of ways to make money on the web without actually charging your users. But, that would be my first question is he's a .com, how is he going to make money off of it? And why are we spending money if he's going to be making money off of our data? So.
Here's set the hook and then
Yeah.
frame advertising on everybody.
Yeah. But that's
That would-
interesting. I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
So what would it be? It'd end up that North Andover under this, cleargov.com would have its own page then.
Right. Exactly. I mean, there already is a page.
There is a page.
There is a page. You can go and you can click on it, but it's $10 million off. So.
That's all that free cash.
Right.
It's kind of a rounding
He
area
doesn't know
there,
what
right?
to do with the free cash.
If you have enough money, you can pay me now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We were talking about this last year, what's the benchmark?
Exactly.
We compare all these numbers and we don't really know are they good or bad. Huh? Is it
It was
average?
really hard to compare the other towns when we looked at it too, because they all did it differently. They weren't all following the same formats
The
either.
towns do, the school does not.
The school report cards, you can compare apples to apples.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
suppose you can, yeah.
Data in, data out, where it might
Yeah.
come from, but you can't see it side by side, and that's the issue. You literally have to print,
Right.
but the towns you can't.
Okay. All right, any more comments on that? Okay, so we wanted to take a moment and do a few things. One is we wanted to thank Patty Sifferlin for her many years of service to our committee. And she's moving on to a new position in the town clerk's office, and we're very happy for her professional career and sad for our committee because we've enjoyed having her so much. And Angela, and if I mispronounce a name the first time, I never pronounce it the right way. How do you pronounce your last name? Chiffon?
No, Sheffalo.
Sheffalo. Okay, Sheffalo. Sheffalo. Okay. We'll be our new clerk, so we welcome you, and we're excited to have you. Yes. So, that'll be great, and we'll. I think we're going to use you extensively this year. I think, one of the things we talked about last year was we're going to make sure when we run our hearings of different groups that we make sure that we extend. We've always had a coordination role played by the town manager's office, but we're going to be a little bit more independent this year in making sure that we reach out to the individuals themselves from the finance committee to say, we know this is a finance committee hearing, but we want you to be invited from the finance committee and look at it as an opportunity to come on board and again, encourage more people to attend so that we can talk to more people, get more insight, more perspective over the course of the year. So, we'll be relying on you to help, pave the way for that. It's really important, and we certainly couldn't govern ourselves, so we appreciate all the help over the years. Okay. Anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
In a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So adjourned.